Yo people, welcome back to another episode of Progress Interviews. I'm here in the lovely area of Dudley, joined by phenomenal musician Kayfaraway. Welcome.
Good afternoon, man.
Let's just continue where we were just talking about recently about music, right? You've been consuming music for a while.
Yep.
And I kind of want to get your thoughts on how has your consumption of music and perhaps art in generally kind of changed in the last maybe 10 years.
Ooh.
So, back in the era of CDs being really prevalent to like now where it's all streaming based and quick.
Okay, I'll dial back just before 10 years. So I bought my first CD. I was older than most other musicians, because some people are like, I bought my first CD when I was 5. I didn't buy my first CD when I was that young. I bought my first CD when I was 12, and it was Thank Me Later, the Drake album. I've bought more CDs since. What have I bought? But I was only really picking CDs that were meaning a lot to me. So I bought Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly.
Yeah.
And I brought J. Cole's 2014 Forest Hill Drive. But I'm going to be honest, I did leak it, because remember it leaked? I had the leak, and then the leak was so good that I bought the album. I still haven't opened it. And then as time's gone on, obviously we've all got into streaming and not bootlegging and whatnot. The consumption's changed indefinitely, because I think what my parents used to listen to, for example, they've got it all on CD or vinyl. But I've also got all of what they used to listen to on streaming services. So I'm still consuming their music and the music that I was listening to as a child in a different platform. So the consumption's changed, but the feeling of the music that the music gives you is still exactly the same.
So that remains the same.
You
still get that sort of satisfaction from a new good album.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. And so speaking a bit more about your own music, well, firstly, kind of when did you start? When did you start treating yourself as a musician?
Okay, so realistically, treating myself as a musician, probably not so long. I'm going to say 4 years ago, between 4 and 5 years ago. Probably about a year or 18 months before I released my first single, I started treating myself as an artist. Before that, there was a lot of writing. There wasn't any songs released or anything like that, but there was a lot of writing, a lot of demos recorded, sent to Rom, and then Rom would send them back to say, this isn't good enough, or this is all right. But then it kind of took time, and then there was the one that was like, okay, it's looking like you're ready to finally get in the procedure to release something. So I'd have to say I really started looking at treating myself like an artist probably about 5 years ago, so when I was around 19.
And so did you kind of start around the SoundCloud days and transition into Spotify, Apple Music, etc., or did you start simultaneously on all platforms?
Simultaneously on all of them. Quite fortunate really, because coming through with Rom as well, he had certain advantages that I had, other advantages that other artists that were at the same level as me just didn't have at that time. So he was able to help me get onto digital streaming platforms when everyone else was mainly on SoundCloud. Because obviously you can just upload, well, you can do it to all of them now, but at that time you could just upload to SoundCloud, and it seemed like it was a little bit harder to try and get things on the streaming platforms. And I remember there was a time when I was like, I'll just release it on SoundCloud, and he was like, no, we're not going to do that, because then you might end up filtering as somebody on SoundCloud and not be able to transition. Whereas if all of them are at the same time, they'll all build slowly, but they'll all build at the same time. So you won't be looking at them with numbers way off and thinking, well, how come this many people listen to it on this? And like everything's kind of,
boxed into like a certain style or aesthetic.
Exactly.
I'm just wondering, like, how important are these conversations that you have with like people like Rom and like perhaps other friends and collaborators of, you're not really talking about music per se, but you're talking about the industry and how to succeed and your own experiences within the industry. Does that genuinely help you grow as an artist?
Yeah, I'd say it's vital, to be honest, because you end up in a place where it's easy to get lost. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of us out there, and it's easy to just become another one of the numbers that's forgotten about. And those conversations with people who have most of my conversations really are with Ron, because we're so close, and he's kind of trailblazed for us to a point where he's done things so I don't have to do them. So he's gone down certain routes, and he'll say, listen, you don't want to do this because this, that and the other. You can do it if you want to, but I wouldn't advise you to do this because this, that and the other. So it's easier to take his advice. Not always take his advice. Sometimes there's certain things that I might want to do that he might advise against. But for the most part, everything that he says is normally right, and he's tried and tested it. So the conversations that we have are pretty important, because he's always trying to make sure that I'm a step ahead of where he was when he was in my position. So he's always trying to give me that advantage. So those conversations are vital, to be honest.
Yeah. No, that's good, because I feel like that's really underappreciated in a lot of sense. People just want to jump in the studio, make music, and then drop it, and then be like, why is it not going anywhere? Exactly. But there's a lot of background activity that needs to happen for something to succeed, I think, especially in this day and age. But well, the main reason why we're here is to celebrate 1 year of Set It Off.
Yeah, man.
Phenomenal album. It's an album that I use to kind of rate other people against, like other artists. So it's like, how close do you get to that album if you're dropping a project? Is it comparable to Set It Off? Do you capture the same sort of emotions, the same sort of vibes that you managed to capture on Set It Off? It's just like a really good project, in my opinion.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
How did that come about? When did that start? When did the idea of an album begin?
Well, to be honest, I always wanted to experience making a full-length tape, but I just always wanted something to be, how can I put it, something that's timeless, that's going to stand the test of time. I wasn't worried about how much streams it gets in a week or a year or whatever. I wanted for when the next things happen, for it to be a case of, this body of work here is an amazing body of work regardless. So if we go back to 2021 now, so we go back to 2019, I did decide that I was going to do a full length, but hadn't had any tracks down. The first track that we recorded was Crazy Ride in the November, and at that point knew what I wanted to do, didn't know how I was going to do it. So then we got to December, and I thought, definitely going to do a full length, and I recorded the intro, the Set It Off intro.
Wait.
It's fine.
Sorry, I just cut it out, it's fine.
I used to leave it in there. We used to leave it in there personally. That's gotta stay for me. That's Dudley to a T, man. Well, I don't give a damn about your camera. What?
You just stopped there as well.
What? But yeah, so really, by the time we got to the January of 2020, there were certain things that just kept coming together. So P's and Q's was done. It wasn't complete, but it was done in a sense of like the track could be performed. It wasn't a finished track, but the track could be performed. So we did perform that in 2019, actually, on a little tour, me and Santizo. But then like the songs just started coming together, and like we were noticing the cohesive elements of them, because like me and Ron would just cook. Like I'd just go to his on a Friday or Saturday or midweek or whatever. We're just making music, and with a lot of the joints that we're making, we're realizing that this fits to this track, this fits to this track, this fits on this vibe. So we knew that something was happening, and then had a chunk of annual leave from work in the February, and the majority of the work was done then. So this is February last year, and the majority of the work was done then, because I was literally at the Oasis every day, boom, putting in songs, and different vibes as well. And not all of them were connecting, but some of them were.
Mm-hmm.
And then
So all that happened before COVID?
All that happened before COVID, and at the point where, because we wanted to release it at the end of March, sorry, there's a thing you have to salute it when it's flying on its own. It's flying on its own. I had to salute it.
Okay.
We wanted to release it March, but obviously COVID happened, and at that point it was 10 songs long. Then as the lockdowns were on and off, there was different elements that were coming together, and I was like, I was writing certain things, and I was like, this is too good not to be on the tape. Like these are emotions and feelings that I'd like to give. So we took one track off of it, which now, if you were to hear that song, it couldn't even stand up with the rest of those.
Right.
And we added When the Spirit Talks, Red Eye to BHX, Snakes and Ladders, and Flying Colours. And all of those songs are some of my favourite songs on there. Do you know what I mean?
They're definitely standouts as well.
So, like, none of those songs existed pre-COVID. The tape that we had pre-COVID. So
how would you say COVID kind of changed your writing or your emotional kind of expression?
I always considered myself quite somebody who thinks about, like, I always have a mental target in my head, and I like to think, how far am I from the bullseye? And with the rate that I was recording at previously, I was recording good things, but I wasn't taking the time to really hone in on my writing and my delivery to the point where I was almost recording so much that I was taking it for granted.
Right.
But then, because I couldn't record during COVID, I knew that when I got the chance, I had to make it count. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Those targets, I just became more precise as a writer. My delivery became more precise and more clear, which I think you can hear in the likes of Red Eye to BHX and When the Spirit Talks, especially. I think it was my precision more than anything that really grew during that time, and the delivery, and a certain kind of hunger as well within those songs, because again, like the luxury of just recording was kind of like stripped away. So I'm gone from recording 4 or 5 times a week to once a fortnight. Do you know what I mean? So like the luxury was stripped away. So I'm like, every time I'm in the studio, I gotta make it count.
Exactly. I was going to say, does it make it feel a bit more special when you're back in that
and that's continued to now, where even though I haven't released as much this year, every time I'm in there, I know for a fact that I have to deliver, because I know that these chances can get taken away just like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So it sounds like you've kind of almost gone through a transformation, in the sense that, you know, obviously there's nothing wrong with just recording a load of songs week by week. There's nothing wrong with it, but you start to take it for granted in a way, and when you're in the studio, you know that it's like work. Yeah. Right. There's something you need to perform your part. Yeah. The producer does his part, and etc. So it makes it a bit more professional in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
But also retains an element of creativity and experimentalism. Yeah. Which you kind of lose if that's all that you're doing week after week. Yeah. So it definitely shines on the songs that you just mentioned that were added later on. On the first track, you mentioned radio plays. I don't know if you have any like strong feelings towards or against radio, especially in this day and age. No. Do you listen to it often, or is it like, do you create your own music? Or mix and match?
You know what it is with the radio? I listen to it, but I just understood how fortunate that I was to get where I am without being somebody who is overly pushed by the radio. But I also understand I'm not gonna be pushed by the radio. Do you know what I mean? I'm from Dudley. It's not like I've got loads of followers, or at that time I wasn't even doing any PR and things like that. Do you know what I mean? So I was just, it was the line that you want about. It was almost an appreciation of, like, I'm here without any of those pushes. I'm here. Say for example, Get My Way, that hit 100k streams. a couple of months ago, and I'm doing all right. Do you know what I mean? I'm doing all right. So it was more so just an appreciation, and that was it really. I don't know if it felt like a dig towards radio. If it did, then I don't mind. But it wasn't.
Yeah.
it was just an appreciation.
No, I understand that, because you're like, your achievements feel like your own.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly that. Yeah, exactly.
It's
that,
not like because you did a massive PR campaign that is big. It's not like you got major backing. It's the work.
Yeah, not with no label or radio. Like these are the things that I've managed to do, that we've managed to do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
exactly. Well, you mentioned Dudley.
Yes.
We spoke a bit about it in the journey here.
Yes. You don't look impressed with it?
I'm enjoying it. I mean, we have a lovely view of warehouses.
Yeah.
And behind us is...
Yeah, man. We've got two church towers as well, man. That's quite gothic, actually. Quite gothic. Got the courts over there. Well, that's brilliant.
It's a vibe. Have you lived here all your life? Were you born here?
All my life, yeah. You know what? Yeah, I just love Dudley, man. And I think when me and this entity behind the camera here were like when we were in like college, or not so much school, because everyone from school was from Dudley as well. But when we were in college and we're meeting people from like Wolverhampton or Birmingham, or even like Worcester, say, or Stourbridge, like they always had something to say about Dudley, and it was always negative. So we just have this this chip on our shoulder, which we use for positive. Do you know what I mean? And we make sure that whenever we do anything, we always put Dudley at the forefront of it, because we're from here, and regardless of what it looks like, there's loads to be proud of when you're from here. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, man, I love it. Like I don't care what it looks like. To be fair, it probably looks a little bit nicer over there, but there's nowhere to sit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest.
That's all good.
Yeah, man. So Dudley gets mentioned in Set Off. I feel like it's probably like one of the first times that I've mentioned it throughout all of my songs, but I'm always gonna represent it. Like that won't be the last time it gets mentioned. It's gonna get mentioned again.
Can you speak a bit about the kind of creative scene here? Like, if there is one, or is it like you just kind of building it up by your own rules?
We're definitely a big part of building it up. Me, Milk, Samram. But we've got a lot of everything here. Like, I don't think people really understand that there's so much things from Dudley so many people from Dudley that are doing well in their fields, and a lot of the time when you're from Dudley, you just become like an offshoot of the West Midlands. So the West Midlands photographer, the West Midlands artist, the West Midlands rappers, you know what I mean? And that's what happens. Like, we've got, just to name a few, we got MV, he's doing videos and photography, and he's doing exceptional with it. We've got clothing brands here. There's a couple of artists as well. We've got Dre 100. Like we've got there's a Remo as well, Big Flippo. There's loads of things going on here, and realistically we could probably create our own little thing, but I feel like we all want to push Dudley further afield instead of it just becoming an enclosed thing. We all want to get out and say, yeah, this is where we're from.
Would you ever move to bigger cities like London, maybe Birmingham, Manchester?
You know, I'd move, and I'd definitely move. I'd definitely do a lot of work elsewhere, but nowhere's ever going to be home like Dudley. Do you know what I mean? Nowhere's ever going to be home. So and I wouldn't be able to leave indefinitely. I'd think I'd struggle to leave indefinitely. I don't think, on most days, out of 365 days a year, there's probably not many days at all where I can say I'd rather live somewhere other than Dudley, as long as certain things were right, certain financial elements and things like that. Like, I'd be fine just staying here. Like, I love it here. So
no, that's sick, because I mean, obviously everyone has their favourite places, but when you're born somewhere and you've lived here, you kind of know it instinctively.
Like the back of your hand.
Yeah. And it's kind of special, especially when an artist, when you're like really proud of where you're from, you don't try to hide it. It's really refreshing. Yeah. So, slight detour, but on your Instagram profile,
Oh,
on your description, you write IDT.
yes.
What is IDT?
What is that?
What is it?
What is it?
Because you got it as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So is it like something
It's a
brewing?
collective. It's a collective. So it's IDT. It's indeterminate, and it's just a collective of the three of us. So it's me, Milks, and Rum.
Right. Okay.
And it's our collective. Probably looking to do a lot more things with it in the future, but with me, I'll make sure it's plastered all over my things. Just because I that's probably an advantage that I probably do have over Rum, having started and being able to say, yo, I'm starting and I'm putting this everywhere.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't have that same advantage to just start throwing it everywhere all the time. Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, that's literally that's all it is. And every time either of us do anything, when Rum releases music or when Milks does his videos for the likes of Jade and Clove or anything like that, or when I release music, it's always with IDT in mind. Because it's like we're literally just three friends. Like we used to live a stone throw from each other. I'm talking 10-minute walk for me because I walk slow, but 5-minute walk for these guys and to where I live, and these guys used to live across the road from each other. Do you know what I mean? So like it's just our way of just representing ourselves as a collective.
Yeah.
So that's what IDT is.
No, that's good. And so what you're planning on like building upon that, pushing that forward wherever you go.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
That's great.
Definitely gonna look at clothing, potentially hosting some evenings as well.
Yeah.
Some IDT evenings, because anybody that's been around us on a night know that we're pretty the nights can get quite what's the right word to use? Not wild, but the behaviour is not feral, that's for sure. But the it's not righteous. It is right, but it's probably not righteous. So yeah, anyone that's been around us on a night knows that if we for sake of another phrase, we party hard.
Yeah.
We party hard, man. We play hard, and we celebrate and we enjoy our nights, and like we enjoy showing love.
Yeah.
Definitely probably going to be hosting some evenings in the future. Don't know when. But even the shows, like when we host shows, it's a vibe anyway.
For sure.
But yeah.
So kind of thinking a bit more about the future now. Is there anything you can kind of speak to? So obviously you mentioned that you haven't released much music lately.
Yeah.
You did a collab with Key.
Recently, yeah.
Recently, Guilty Pleasure.
Did you like it?
Oh yeah, it's great. Mate, like I love everything that you do, bro. It's you just say a few words and like, it's gone.
Sprinkle the angels.
Yeah. But what's like next on your mind outside of IDT for your personal career? Are you kind of working on a project, an album, or are you just going to be testing waters with some singles?
Definitely going to be testing waters with some singles, but me, I'm very project minded. So if you look at my releases, so you got, for example, just before I dropped my first EP, there was a little 2-track single with 2 different vibes on there, or the Hours After Midnight EP, then Oasis, and there's little cut-off singles in between. I'm probably going to test the water a little bit longer with some singles, but with me, once I start creating and I hit there's a certain, I don't even know what it is, but like say for example, I haven't been too active all year, but I just haven't been releasing music. I've been in the studio, I've been working. Yeah. There's no, and when people hear what's next, there's no question of that. But it's kind of like I don't even know what the switch is, but there's something that flips, and I'm like, okay, it's project time. And I'll just like normally I think I'll probably start writing intros first, and then there's an intro, and I'm like, I don't know how we're gonna surround this, but this is an intro.
Yeah.
So
you get there eventually.
Yeah, but I'm gonna be testing the water with a couple of singles, but a project could be on the way sooner rather than later. I'm gonna be honest with you.
That's good.
Could be on the way sooner rather than later.
That's good.
Are
there any artists that you'd want to work with?
Yes.
That you haven't yet?
Yes, most definitely. Do need to get more in with Key, but for artists that I haven't worked with yet, Kate Smalls. You're listening to Kate Smalls. Yeah. Really need to get some working with him. But you know, I was discussing this on the phone the other day. Because of the way that we both make music, we know that it's gonna come eventually, and we don't rush it. Like he would never force me into the studio and say, "Yo,
right,
we need to get a tune done, this, that, and the other," and vice versa. I would never do him like that either. Just to get a song together, we'll make sure that it's right. So Kate Smalls, definitely up there. Dre as well, another that same artist I mentioned from Dudley, definitely up there. Probably there's some artists like bigger than me that I'd like to see if I can get some working with them. Children of Zeus, I would like to see if I can get something in with them. Don't know what the vibe would be, but I'd like to see what kind of vibe it would be.
Organic.
Yeah. And
like.
well, they were meant to. Well, not Children of Zeus, but there's a London duo called Billy Dukes. It's Intellect and G3. It's a hip hop duo. They were meant to be on Set It Off, one of the songs.
Right.
Well, we sent it over. They had verses written, but they couldn't get recorded before the pandemic. But in hindsight now, when I said, nah, never mind, they could have carried on, because at that point, when I said never mind, we was looking to release it in March, but, everything could have just continued, to be honest. Those two. There's another Birmingham singer as well called Maddie Saskia.
Yeah.
Do you know who she is? Defo need to get some work in with her, because I really like her vocals, man. And another female vocalist as well, Nisha, from Birmingham. So to be honest, most of the people that I'd like to work with, I can work with.
Like keeping it local.
And they're all exceptional at what they do. They all care about their craft just as much as I do. So
for sure,
I don't really care to work with anybody who doesn't care about their craft that much, or is just in it for like, I just want to blow, or this, that, and the other. All the people that I really want to work with, they do care about the craft. You know what I mean? And that, for me, that's the starting point for us to make anything together. So
for sure.
So that's off the top of my head. That's probably the list. Oh, and Remo as well. That's another rapper from Dudley. That would be a real nice vibe to try and get in on. Yeah.
Cool. How long have we been going for? 20 minutes. All right. Well, that's pretty much all my questions.
Cool.
As to close it off, do you have any questions for me? If you don't, that's cool.
You know what? Yeah, because we did discuss it briefly, but what is next for you and Progress?
Yeah. So obviously, recently we just finished dropping merch with Keep Hush merch service. That was really good. So that should be with people by beginning of December. Next is hopefully an event. That'll be amazing, especially keep it Birmingham, keep it local. Nice. Maybe get a couple of Londoners up there just to kind of spread the word a bit as well. But after that, it's just expanding. It's doing more of this, interviews, like connecting with artists, connecting with people, and also just expanding beyond music.
Yeah.
So like I mentioned, working with photographers, videographers in the local area as well as beyond. And also, just expanding further and further from Birmingham, keeping it centered around Birmingham, but also keeping it more inclusive with other cities that don't have a platform yet.
Yeah, especially up north, kind of.
Yeah. So like Leeds, like I'd love to work with the jazz scene in Leeds and the indie scene in Leeds. Scotland, Edinburgh, those type of areas. So and then we'll just see where it goes. Brilliant. Just keep working, keep creating like honest connections with people, and see where that takes you. But yeah, man. Any final words?
Thanks for coming to this beautiful town, soon to be a city. Welcome. Hope you've enjoyed your stay.
I'm out. But thank you so much for doing this. It's really appreciated, man. And look forward to whatever you end up doing, and as always, I'll keep supporting.
Yeah, man.
Just let me know whenever you're dropping. If you need any help with promo, etc., I'm more than down.
Oh, thanks.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching, and yeah, till next time, I guess. Oh, I hate intros and outros so much.